Hi everyone, welcome back to another video in the series of React Native for iOS natives. So in this video we're going to be looking at how you expose a native component to React Native. So what we're going to do is create a WKWebView component in Swift. I'll show you how to expose that component out to React Native. I'll show you how to do a simple property on the component. I'll also show you how to raise an event from native code and handle it on the JavaScript side. So I hope this video is useful. Please hit the subscribe button and let's get on with the coding. So let's create the React Native app for our project. So we'll do npx React Native init, and we'll just call this web embed demo. So that's the project created. Let's check it actually works. So that's the native boilerplate application running. Let's open the code up and clear out all the boilerplate. So we'll go into app.js and we'll just remove the things that we're not going to need for this project. So now we have an empty app. Let's start with the native side of the code base. So I'm going to kill the Metro bundler because it can sometimes get slightly confused when we're changing native code. And I'll also quit from the simulator as well. So let's go into the iOS folder and we'll open up the workspace file. So we're going to expose a WKWebView out to React Native. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new Swift file. So we'll create a Cocoa Touch class. We'll call this WebView, and it's going to subclass UIWebView, and we'll write it in Swift. So we need to create a bridging header because we're going to have to mix some Swift and Objective-C. So here's our class. We won't be using the draw function, but if you want to do a custom UI view with drawing, you can easily do that. And we're going to need a WKWebView. So let's import WebKit, and let's have a WebView component. And we'll make our class implement the WK navigation delegate. Now for the init, we'll just have an empty initialization function, and we'll call super init with frame, and we'll just pass cgrect 0. So rather like auto layout, the layout of our component is all handled by React Native. So we won't be doing any sizing in this actual view. We also need to do the required init with coda, and we'll just do super coda. So we want our web view to fill the entire space. So let's set the auto constraint masks to false, and we'll add constraints so that our web view fills the entire space. And we'll also add ourselves as the navigation delegate. So let's implement the navigation delegate method decide policy for navigation, and we'll just allow this to load any content. So now we need to tell the WebView which URL to actually load. So the way to do this with React Native is to provide a property on this class. So let's add a URI property, and we'll make it an optional string. So on the React Native side, if there's no URI specified, we'll get nil for this value. And then on the didSet method, we'll actually tell our WebView to navigate to the specified URI. So that will check to see if we have a valid URI and then navigate the WebView to it. And what we can do is, if all of those fail, we can just load a HTML string into our WebView. So that will show no content if we have no URI specified. Now, it would also be quite useful to raise an event from this view when the URL has loaded. So let's add an event to this. So all we need to do for this is to add another property, and we make that type an RCT direct event block. Now, at the moment you can see it doesn't know what that is, so in the bridging header we need to import React RCT component. So now back in our Swift file, this error will disappear when we run our next build. So that's the Swift side of things. Oh, we need to actually raise this event. So let's have another callback on our delegate. So we should have a did finish. So then we can check that we actually have an event. So this needs to be optional. And if we do, then we can call event handler, and we can pass back a dictionary of useful information for the React side. So let's tell React which URI we actually loaded. So that's our WebView complete. We now need to tell React Native about our class. So the way that's done is with a small amount of Objective-C and some preprocessor macros. So let's create an Objective-C file. and we'll create an Objective-C class in here, and we'll implement RCT View Manager. So let's import that as well. And then in the implementation of our class, we need to implement a factory method to return our view. So we'll return a UIView. The method has to be called view, and all we do is we alloc and init our class. So we need to import the Swift file. So you hash import the auto-generated Objective-C from Swift file, and we need to mark our Swift class as being callable from Objective-C. So now we can hash import, and it will be web embed demo -swift.h. So now React Native will be able to construct our class, but we still need to tell React Native that our class actually exists. So to do that, we use the RCT export module macro. So now React Native will be aware of our manager class, and it will know that it can call the view method on this class to get the view, and then we just need to tell it about our two properties. So we use the RCT export view property. So we have a URI property, and that's of type NSString. And we also have our event property, so we called that onloaded, and it's of type RCT direct event block. So that's everything we need to expose our class out to React Native. So let's check this builds. So our build succeeded. We can now go in to the JavaScript code, and we can use our class. So let's do const WebView equals require native component, and here we specify the name of the manager class without manager. So now we can just use our WebView just like a normal React component. So now if we start the application up, we should see a web view, and it should navigate to news.ycombinator.com. So let's run from Xcode so we can do some debugging if we need to. So I'll just hit play in Xcode, and it will build our project, and we should see our web view up and running. So there we go, that's our web view showing up inside React Native. So if we go to Xcode and we click on the view hierarchy debugging, then you can see our class here, which is our Swift WebView class. So that's working really nicely. So if we go back to our native code, what we've done is we've created a web view, we've added it as a child to our UI view, we've had a property called URI. When that's set, it tells the WebView to load a URL request with that URI. And we also have an event handler that should fire when the page is loaded. So let's check that our event handler actually works. So we'll go back into VS Code and we'll add the event handler. So the properties that we send back in our event handler from the native code will appear in the JavaScript on event, native event. So I'm just going to log that out to the console. So if we save this, and then we reload our application, we're still in the debugger. So let's hit play. So we reload the application. And if we go to the Metro bundler, then we should see our native code firing an event. So I can see I've done a slight bug here. This should be in quotes. So let's rerun that and we should see a proper debug message come through. So there we go. Here is our event coming back from the native code to say it's loaded this URI. So you can add all sorts of properties to your native views. So I've just used a simple example of a string, but you can use dictionaries, you can use arrays. There's a whole host of supported types that will be marshaled across from JavaScript into the native code. Check the React Native documentation for a complete list, and if you need to, you can write your own custom marshallers. So I hope this video was interesting and useful. The source code for this is on GitHub. The link's in the description section. And please hit the subscribe button and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.